we'll just roll with that.
Awesome.
So a brief introduction about myself. If this will advance through, you can call me Matt. That's fine. It is spelled with one T. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Mathew Olson. Again, one T is the key thing there. Let's see. Past work. I used to work at usgamer.net before this, so I have a background in games journalism. That's sort of how I came into AR VR land. Reality Check is both, but I will keep it to AR news during this. I am based in New York. Surprise, surprise. I'm out here in Queens. If you're ever in Ridgewood or nearby, maybe drop me a line. And I had one more thing here, which is, yes, it comes out 4 times a week. Not a weekly newsletter, 4 times a week. There's a lot, and you can sign up. It's part of a subscription for the entire information. It's not broken out yet. Trust me, groups like this will be the first to know if it's ever possible to subscribe separate, but you can also sign up for a trial period. If there's ever, any reason you want to get in touch with me about seeing the newsletter or anything like that, it's just my name at theinformation.com. That'll be listed at the end of this again. So yeah, I figured I would recap the past month since your last meetup, sort of with a quick rundown of headlines from the newsletter. And I didn't practice this much, so we'll just see how much justice I can do going based off of the headlines. But the first thing that popped out to me from the last date that Andy shared of the meetup was Epic purchasing Sketchfab. I think that Epic's continued expansion into sort of these, to this group, very, very relevant, very exciting companies, but to the traditional, games and maybe film production space, a little maybe head scratching acquisitions of companies like Sketchfab that do 3D model repositories, make it really easy to get those into other programs, see them on the web. That to me really illustrates that even though companies like Unity are quick to reach out to me and say hey, we are currently bigger for AR. I think Epic's continued consolidation of these companies is pretty good sign that they are serious about this and that they are focusing on an ecosystem. Now, if you also follow news around Fortnite and things that are said about how Fortnite takes ideas from other games, maybe you have questions about whether Epic, has the right has the right heart for that kind of altruistic mission, but that's not for me to decide. And then there's the M word, which folks like Kathy make very real for us in the here and now, and that people out in public, including many of the information's readers, don't really know what it means at all. And I'm doing my best to sort of, in the context of this AR VR newsletter, pivot towards making that parsable to them, understandable. And Facebook's reorganization of the metaverse, I think that this, honestly, more so than the workrooms thing, which is again not AR, and more than Zuck's sort of words about becoming a metaverse company, these personnel shifts within Facebook Reality Labs, I think, are huge in terms of what this means. Putting Horizon into a category that might potentially have more crossover with AR one day is important. Moving that talent around from the gaming group with an eye towards making platforms that look more like the metaverse than sequestered platforms is really important. And they have over 10,000 people working on AR VR portal currently. I don't think that that's going to be slowing anytime soon. Just check on how many open listings they have, and it's from everything from the nitty grittiest hardware stuff to creative roles. And in that sense, I think that is what you need to take more seriously than any of the sort of talk or flashy product releases, is that internally this is shaping the company's very structure. Another thing that might shape AR and Niantic is actually, Facebook side is this was the month of Niantic news, if you ask me. What they're doing with Pokemon Go, and then the companies that they're acquiring, the talent they're consolidating, the things that John Hanke is out there saying about the metaverse and about their hardware ambitions means that you can't simply write them off as a AR gaming company, or certainly not just to limit them to Pokemon Go. What they're doing with the Lightship platform, I'm sure, is going to be extremely interesting in the future. But what they're doing with Go in terms of responding to the way that its players have reacted to pandemic influence changes, namely in the US and New Zealand, they rolled back this distance thing that made it much easier for hardcore Pokemon Go players to interact with things at a distance and you just sort of maximize their playtime, let's say. It was also great for people who have mobility problems, accessibility concerns like that. And the vocal reaction has not yet let up. Niantic has formed a group that's saying that they're looking into potentially changing those things back, or reaching some kind of middle ground to make it easier to play, but it's sort of at odds with their mission of having AR be something that you really go out into the world and you explore your surroundings while you're using it. And I don't know, I think that this is going to be something that the entire industry has to think about long and hard, not just mobile, not just glasses, any kind of form factor, but really like how much do we privilege being there for experience in close proximity versus making it useful to people no matter where they are. And I think Pokemon Go, it's been 5 years now, 5 years, $5 billion, I believe is the Sensor Tower estimate. Where they go, others will follow. Google's got a new phone coming out, and they've got a fancy tensor chip that is AI focused. But of course, I think that in terms of watching the mobile AR market and where we're going with in terms of new chips, and also just simply giant companies going, we're not going to just work with Qualcomm or whoever, we're going to design our own chipsets and have that influence the sort of way that those ecosystems grow over time. Always worth a mention and worth watching for, even if I'm not likely to switch to a Pixel anytime soon. No LiDAR. Then, okay, so Snap has been, I make note of the other recent hire that they did, but Snap has been sort of pulling people away from Facebook, beginning with Joe Darko, helping launch, or rather sort of push forward their AR developer relations, which I'm sure is going to be a huge push going forward as they try to turn today's AR spectacles into a consumer product that people will actually want to buy and wear. Kat Harris here, of course, wonderful AR developer, getting a lot of FaceTime out in the media as one of the handful of developers modeling these glasses. But yeah, not the only person making the jump from Facebook to Snap, as we will see in a moment here. Oh, this slide is slightly out of order here, actually. Or actually, no. This was about the other Niantic story that day, about their acquisition of Toolbox, aka the company behind Scaniverse. And it's worth noting that Scaniverse's founder and sort of CEO, Chief Creative Keith Ito, actually had a background at Google Maps on the team that eventually sort of gave way, the Google Geo team with Hanke, that led to Niantic, and then Niantic spinning out of Google. It's another way of thinking about this, where, and again, folks like Kathy here, or if you follow other newsletters like Scarred Ghost or Charlie, if you're really in it, you might not need to be told that Niantic's history with stuff goes back to the mapping days, and it goes really, really deep. The readers of Reality Check sometimes need that extra context, and I was happy to reach out to Keith and get this little comment here, which I thought was nice, which is the intersection between the real and digital worlds, how to take mapping data and make it useful to people as they navigate the real world, and how to capture elements of the real world and allow people to share it in digital form. Scaniverse, it's a cool LiDAR app if you have that functionality on your phones now, but this is going to be a thing that Niantic then supports as a separate app, and that will also work on non-LiDAR enabled phones soon. So again, they're trying to advance the way people also capture this information around the world in like a significant way, not just internally, but then making acqui-hires and pushing that stuff to a sort of next level of the art. So keep an eye on that. I saw TechCrunch had a story about this again today after the rounds went around on Twitter, and we made note of it. TikTok seems to be working on some kind of equivalent of a Lens Studio or a Spark AR. Makes total sense. Sort of like had to happen at some point, but it's still very early days yet, so we don't quite know what that's going to look like. And trust me, if I had anything that I could glean about it, I would share it here and in the newsletter, but not yet. And of course, if you are a very creative AR type who feels like maybe going out and living in LA for a month, you should look up what is going on with the AR House launched by Lucas Risotto and Aiden Wolf. I believe that they've had over 100 submissions, they said, probably more than that now, and are trying to get people in there as early as next month. So yeah, if you're interested in being at a house where there's going to be lots of spectacles and Magic Leap headsets and all the hardware you can imagine and a bunch of like-minded folks, that might be worth looking into. And then this is the piece that we ran, I believe, last Thursday for the week. AR VR camera tech. Here's a little behind the scenes a look at how this newsletter gets made. Sometimes you have to reduce something as expansive and interesting in all its use cases as the RealSense cameras that Intel made to AR VR camera tech. But of course, like all sorts of handy technologists and people prototyping things in this space use them for various kinds of tracking purposes and interesting applications. And sadly, those cameras will be going away, as Dylan Martin confirmed with CRN. Intel, of course, is going through a huge shift in terms of its overall business and trying to get back its competitive edge with processors, and then branching out into where NVIDIA and AMD lead with graphics cards, and things like this are just a natural casualty, as are things that they've done with like AR glasses, like I believe Vaunt was the name of their prototype. So of course, they're still huge. You never count them out of anything, but it seems like they are focusing in and away from spatial at this time.
Matthew, our time is tight today, so if you could just wrap up. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's great stuff. Though. Awesome.
Yeah. I'll just say hello to Nikhil here, and everyone should check out the writing on iWay. That's over at KG on Tech, and a couple other things mentioned here. That's where you reach me. This is my name, 1T again, at theinformation.com. Please get in touch.